So, Eddie, care to describe the back of the van as you can see it?
Enjoy the genuine shag carpeting and the waterbed.
Alright, Cryptids, what is going on? It is me, Mississippi Gonzo Grun, JK with Breadcorn, and today we're going to be looking at the Bravado Youga. Oh, Yoga, technically. That's how it's pronounced. But I always thought it was pronounced Yuga, but you know, however you pronounce it. Check out this van. It is based off of the Dodge Ram vans from the 90s. In particularly 93 to 2002 when they stopped making these in this particular style. But, yeah, a lot of bad guys drove these in movies. They were always getting wrecked. And yeah, you can tell this thing's got a roll cage. Pretty thick roll cage at that. It is rear-wheel drive, but it does climb up over anything you throw at it. I actually had one of these in online years ago, but mine had the General Lee rims, and, yep. I remember we called this the General Van because, you know, we were just taking it and just jumping it over crap. That was years ago. But now we got a bunch of other vans. You know, we got the Yugo Classic and the 4x4 variant. There is that one that you get from, well, only if you're on the next-gen stuff. I'm on PC, but I don't really care. Will I ever review that one? If it ever becomes available, maybe. That one will probably get a standalone variant, but the other three might not. So, here we are. You know, I remember this being like the van that most of the bad guys drove, or two, somebody was, you know, getting destroyed in one of these. Yeah, you know, hero gets stuck on rocks, but, you know, such as it is. That's it, nice and easy. There it is. I got it unstuck. Alright, I think I could swing it. That's it. I think I got it. I got it out. There it is. I got it. There it is. I got it out. Sometimes things get stuck and you have to get it out. But, you know, don't panic. That's the last thing you want to do. Don't ever panic. That will cause more problems than what it's worth. And that also goes for real life situations, too. If you ever find yourself in over your head, don't panic. Just chill out. That's all you got to do. Just chill. And that was the bushes. But yeah, this was a particular van we actually would just throw around everywhere. Well, there was that one time we did send it up. Well, there's like I say it's a halfway, kind of a halfway jump over the creek. But I think this area might have been made differently because of that one spot. And it's right where I go into the water back there. The first deep crossing. Or, you know, well, technically the second. Second or third, I believe. Yeah, that would be the third crossing. Okay, it's the third. Get across, and it makes it across the wall of doom. That's the one thing about it. Through this part, I kind of have to stand on the gas because cars usually get beached there, and then it's impossible, next to impossible, I should say, to get them out. You know, such as it is. You know, this particular van has very nice suspension work, but it just lacks power. Even with all the mods and everything on it, it's still lacking. But this is definitely one of those novelty vehicles you keep, you know, for, you know, dumb purposes. I think I was actually going to make a video, well, a movie with the van. Well, with this van in particular. I'm trying to think what it was. Oh, by the way, the sliding doors don't work. I think the rear door, I know the rear doors do because that's where people go to sit at, but the sliding doors, no. Unless that's changed, but I've never remembered the side doors ever opening. But yeah, even though this particular van is severely underpowered, it's still very nice to get booking. You know, it just floats on the dirt. You know, it's got the right amount of speed, but not, too much foolishness, making it want to kick out. So there's that. I better watch out. That's the ditch. Braking wise, I would say this thing has very lackluster brakes. Not necessarily ridiculous, but you see what I mean. And I hit both sets of brakes. Both the handbrake, which is what I just hit, and the reverse. And, well, technically there's brake and handbrake. You get both. Which would be the bumper and the trigger if you're on Xbox. Well, if you're using an Xbox controller like I am, it would be the right bumper for the handbrake, and for a reverse, it would be the left trigger. Or R1, L2 if you're using PlayStation stuff. On keyboard, I couldn't tell you because I don't use keyboards with games like this. Unless it's an emergency, Then I'm not above using a keyboard. Hey, I just prefer using a controller over keyboard. But, that's a whole nother subject matter in and of itself. I'm not here to try to tell you which one you should be using or which one's better than the other. I like both. I don't get involved in that sort of nonsense because that's what it is. It's nonsense. Playing with one over the other is not going to make you a better gamer. If you can play with both of them and just, have a preference for one over the other, then it shouldn't really matter. I swear, some of the horror films they show on these YouTube ads and these trailers, they're garbage. I mean, like, come on, come up with something original, then we'll talk. That's what I want to know. At least come up with something creative in terms of, horror. But, all it is just cheap gore, and it's like, no, I can't do that. Gore's just ridiculous at this point. It's like, is that what horror films just become down to? Them cheesy giallo films from the 70s? Well, yeah, Italian giallo films. That's what kind of gave birth to all the slasher stuff, but, we're not going to talk about that. But yeah, in terms of what I did use this van for, it was just, stuff like this. I kind of used it for an expedition van, or, well, in this case, I used it for a muscle van. Because I had it sitting low to the ground. It had muscle car tires on it. And that's what I mostly used this for. It was just a street van. But I want to say I sold it, or I kept it over in my garage in Paleto Bay, because I always kept a house in Paleto. That was the one thing about it. When they made houses available in Paleto Bay and Blaine County, I was one of the first few people to jump on one. It's like, I want to go live out in the desert. I don't want to live in Los Santos, but that's kind of where everything is set. Like, it kind of forces you to base all your stuff in Los Santos. Strange as that is, Well, I wonder if GTA 6, everything will be a little bit more spread out. Like, if you have a business in one part of the map, the business stays there. But I'm not going to get into GTA 6 because that's a whole other can of worms, and people tend to lose their minds over GTA 6. So, other than that, we will now be jumping into the next yoga or Yuga, however you pronounce it. So we'll jump into one of those. So here we go. Alright, so as you can see here, I ended up getting the Lamar's Bravado Youga Custom, which is based off of the that one vehicle off of Cheech and Chong's up in Smoke, I believe it is. Yeah, that custom one that got everyone high at the end of the movie. But you know what I'm talking about if you've seen Cheech and Chong. But this one, for some reason, is listed as Vapid. I'm not sure why. But it is kind of funny considering that it has the Bravado Youga classic body, but it has the fender flares from the Tornado. Kind of a unique thing. Now, how I got this one in story mode, not story mode, I got this one in online because I was doing all the Lamar, get Lamar adversary mode, and when I spawned in, after the thing was over with, this spawned in right next to Lamar's place. I don't know if that was by accident or, what, but I saw it and I got it. The only other way to get this is if you do the career progress stuff, but that's for the current gen and PC only stuff at the moment. So that's really the only way to get it, is through the career progress. So there is that. But this one actually surprised me about how good it was. Excuse me if I do yawn out through it. It's 1 in the morning as I'm recording this. Hey, what can I say? It's 1 o'clock on a weekend. Don't really care at this point, but you know. I will say this one actually shocks me because now outside of the Benny's Custom one, outside of the 4x4 Yoga, however you pronounce it, this one is actually the better out of the 3. Why did I exclude the Benny's one? Well, the Benny's one's kind of its own thing. But I do hope you did enjoy that little opening to it, because it's like, yeah, I tried to make the retro van from Ed, Ed, and Eddie. Yeah, this one actually shocked me quite a bit. Just based on how its off-road prowess was, you know, for a bone stock vehicle, which is saying something. But yeah, it is easily damaged. I don't think there's that much customization to it. Even if you do own it, it's kind of a specialty thing. It's kind of more of a novelty type deal. But yeah, I got this and I was in a public lobby, so I was rather paranoid trying to film it. Because, you know, there was a big battle going on some other time, and that's me wrecking it. But yeah, that type of things happen. I was kind of paranoid because I could hear, you know, stuff blowing up in the background, and I'm like, please don't come over this way and fight. I just got this thing. So there was that. So that did kind of, you know, it's kind of that heightened sense of paranoia that you get while playing this game. You know, especially in online, in a public lobby. And I'll tell you, I did see some oppressors flying around, and I wanted no part of those. It's like, please don't come over this way. I don't feel like fighting. But turns out I was in a chill lobby. For the most part. I do apologize for yawning yet again. Very unprofessional, but, you know, still, it's 1 in the morning for me. And I said, you know what, I'm going to get this out. Because why not? Now, I honestly thought that I was going to have to, like, stop at the Wall of Doom and do something else. But it actually ended up shining right here. And the other thing I will say is this thing has terrible brakes. It's got some garbage level brakes. So, yeah. Because, like, if you hold the brake and the handbrake at the same time as you're trying to stop, forget it. Treat it like a big rig when it comes to the braking. But yeah, overall, this particular Yuga actually did very well. You know, especially on the off-road review course, which is saying something. However, with some of my more better off-roaders, as you could say, I've thought about using a special trail for those, just to showcase more of their off-road prowess. Now, for some of you asking, well, what path am I thinking about using? Well, I'm thinking about using the one over... It's near the docks. Well, near the port. The ports, I should say. If you do... I do apologize yet again. I do apologize for yawning. That's 3 times I've yawned. But after this, I want to get this video uploaded, and then I'm going to let it, you know, skedaddle on. But yeah, this is me actually trying to show off the rally racing capability of it. Yeah, it's got some pretty gnarly understeer. Oversteer I can work with. Understeer, yeah, stuff like that will happen. But if you know how to handle it, then be my guest. Do I really see this thing ever really being, you know, something else? Well, it's just more of a novelty vehicle you get. Now, outside of the mod menus, like I said, the only way to really get this is if one, you get lucky and one of these spawns in, or, you know, the other one is if you do the career progress. I don't know if this is available through the LS car meet. I don't think it's purchasable through that. But yeah, I've been trying to unlock this particular van for the past few weeks now, and I'm not getting lucky. It has to do with the whole, you know, it has to do with Tier 3. Tier 3 of the auto shop business. Because I already got 1 and 2 done. And 4 is already unlocked. But the only way to unlock 4 and claim that prize is if you have to do the 3rd one, which is all kinds of other stuff. I don't know what that was, but something crawled up on me. And it's rather dark. Like I said, it's 1 in the morning. I said, you know what, I better get to editing this because I've been editing videos for the past few hours now. Editing videos, chatting and voice channels, you know, just, you know, stuff like that. You know, sometimes we talk about life and all kinds of other things. But yeah, I always save the best for last. So, yeah. I do these little collection videos because, you know, it gets all these vehicles out of the way. I don't have to worry about, you know, trying to make 4 separate off-road reviews for one vehicle that has all these different variants. Which, I do have the one for the Dominator done. I just have to get around to making a thumbnail and uploading that. But, you know, things are happening. So I'm going to try to get around to making a thumbnail for that. I do have a thumbnail for the Impaler collection, but yeah, I only have one thumbnail for this because I tend to experiment with thumbnails. Excuse me. But yeah, that's the other thing too. That understeer will be a menace, but you know, you just get this vehicle because you know you're a fan of Cheech and Chong. Which, yeah. And this is just where I stopped it right here. But, you know, an overall thing, this is actually one of the more... This was actually a really surprising off-roader for me. I was not expecting this to, you know, really be that amazing. But I said, you know what? I better get it done because I want to do all the Yugas. You know, I'm not sure why it's called the Vapid Yuga Custom. But, hey... It's Rockstar. I'm not going to question it at this point, but let's jump into the next Yuga. So here we go right now. Alright, so here I am with the Yuga Classic. Or Yoga Classic. Well, whichever one you pronounce it, you know. I really don't care. But yes, this is, in fact, the Yuga Classic. Which is actually based off of Ford Econoline from the 60s. Well, early 60s, that is. But, you know, this thing actually does have some great livery options to it. You can make it all rusted out. Or you can make it look like the Mystery Machine. Such as these things are. But I really don't care at this point. Why? Well, it's a great car. Well, great van, that is. Granted, it's not one of the fastest vans, but it's not one of the slowest either. That would be to the OG Yuga. You know, such as it is. But I will say this. My favorite Yugo, you're going to see up next. And you'll find out why. And if you actually get the reference to that, hey, congratulations. But I do know Slade actually reviewed this before me, and he liked it to a certain extent. He wasn't crazy about it. But he did like for the fact that we did get a Mystery Machine. Which, that reminds me, should we actually make a Scooby-Doo parody? But, you know, it'd be kind of hard, you know, unless we got a modder to come in and, you know, be Scooby-Doo. But, you know, I don't feel like doing that. But we kind of need someone to dress up as a monster, so I kind of have somebody in mind. So, I'll be sure to do that. I'll be sure to run it by him first, because I think he'd be down to do it. But, yes. Them old Ford Econoline vans. I know very little about those other than, you know, from what an old mechanic told me, he said they were a pain in the ass to work on. That's just what he said. Now, some people might have a different view of it, you know. But, you know, I will say that vans are kind of a pain in the ass to work on because of how the motor's set. But it's kind of understandable. I went too fast, hit the brakes. Yeah, it's got them brakes of an old Econoline, too. It's got them old Econoline brakes, them old drum brakes. I need to replace the drums. Which, that reminds me, when you really look at it, it's got disc brakes. That's the crazy part, is how it has disc brakes, but it's got the drum brake radius. It's got the abilities of a drum brake. But, you know, on certain applications, drum brakes are fine. You know, I'm not here to argue drums versus ABS. I'm not here to do that. To me, that's just more nonsense. It's not worth worrying about. This one might be a little bit difficult, but we're going to shoot it across. Whew, that's a close one. I really didn't want to have to restart, you know, such as these things be. But it is capable of off-roading. You know, me and Slade proved that years ago, which I think Slade's old channel's still up, but he lost access to it. But he does have a new one, because I always, you know, it's like, hey, go subscribe to him, because he does cool stuff. Which he is starting to, you know, he's been dealing with a new job, so he will be coming back into recording soon enough. Well, at the time of this video, he is. So he will be recording soon enough. He's just happy to be working somewhere, which, you know, I wouldn't be complaining either. You know, an honest day's work is perfectly fine. Now, going out here and being, you know, running the streets and, you know, popping switches off, that's a bit different. That's crash out behavior. You don't want to be a crash out dummy. No, you just don't want to be those for obvious reasons. That just makes you ignorant. You know, that's just my take on the matter, but let's not get into that subject. That could be saved for a whole nother video. Now, like I said, this van's not the fastest, but it's not the slowest either. You know, it's a fun van, and it's relatively cheap. You know, a couple of Acid Lab missions and, you know, a couple of Acid Lab sales, and you got yourself a very nice van out of this. But I do plan on using this for a movie, but that's whenever I go taking and upgrade it through Benny's. But, you know, some of y'all already know these vehicles are very great at climbing hills. You know, such as it is. They do climb. You know, the Yugo, in particular this one, can actually climb whatever hill you throw it at. You know, outside of ridiculous rock faces like that crap over there. You know, it's not going to climb one of these. But me and Slade did take one of these up Mount Chiliad once, and we're talking about the difficult parts. It got up there pretty far. It got up there really, really far. But, you know, at a certain point, that's where it becomes really difficult, and it goes falling right back down the mountain, and now you're cursing at Fred Durst because you wrecked your car. You know, you done wrecked your stuff. You know, such as it is. What time is it? Alright, there it is. I might have to wait a few minutes, but I want to say I can actually get this over said and done with. So, yeah. Because I'm probably going to record another vehicle and then call it a night. Because there's times I just record GTA stuff, and then there's times I just want to go record PS2 stuff. There's that understeer kicking in. Straddled it, but made it. But other than that, I'm going to go ahead and, you know, call this part an end right here. So I'm going to stop right here. And now we will jump into the Yugo Classic 4x4. And you'll see why it's my favorite. So let's jump into it. So finally, with the final vehicle of the Yuga collection, this is the Bravado Youga 4x4. Which can be customized through Benny's. And it is one of the most expensive Benny's vehicles to get. Because it's just over a few million. It's like 1.2 million. Almost 1.3, so do beware. You know, if you want it, then get it. But for those of y'all that understand the reference of this vehicle, trust me, you'll get it. You know, we all grew up watching Ed, Edd n Eddy, so I tried to make it as close to the retro van as I could. You know, such as it is. I will say this, 4x4 vans are actually cool. And this is actually by far a really good one. You know, I do love the, you know, the Rumpo Custom. But this one, it's up there. But, you know, in terms of off-roaders, it's also up there, and, you know, in terms of my favorite customizable ones. And it does climb up stuff. It can climb. You know, granted, if you actually hit the path right, then you don't have to worry about it. Well, come on, come on. Get up it. You can get up it. Thank you. But I will say this. There she goes. I mean, this thing's actually a really good all-around off-roader for what it is. You know, it's that classic 70s van vibe look, which, you know, you do get a bunch of cool murals and customizations with this. I try to get mine as close to that van from Ed, Edd n Eddy as I could. I mean, even in the interior, you don't get just a straight, you know, a straight color variant. So you kind of have to make do with what you dealt with. But, you know, someone's going to complain anyway. It's like, but it's not that accurate. This is Grand Theft Auto, not BeamNG Drive or some other car customization game. This one I never got to review. I never got to review it. I took it off-roading plenty of times, but, you know, just never got around to it. And, oh, yeah, by the way, yes, all the lights do work. But there is a certain light set that comes with it where they don't work because they covered the headlights. And it's like, dang it, I wanted to give something a more classic feel to it. The classic KC lights look and everything else. So you have that. That's it, nice and easy. It's got the right amount of torque, the right amount of ride height, and the right amount of braking and traction to be a really good off-roader. You know, it's such a shame we don't have those type of rims from off-roading, you know, on top, you know, the ones on top of the van. It would be nice, but I don't think Rockstar will be adding in any type of new car rims for the foreseeable future. So there's that. All kinds of stuff, really. But yeah, kind of excited for all the new updates that's coming. You know, they might add in another off-roader to Benny's. I mean, it's a possibility. You know, considering they have all kinds of assets for GTA 6 already planned out. Which, you know, I still say they're going to put out a donk update. I mean, we got a lowrider update, so it's like, go on ahead and give us another donk, or a few donks at that. And, you know, and I know some of you are going to start complaining about donks. I know what a donk is, but, you know, general terms, people just associate that with big cars with big-ass rims on them. I know somebody's been trying to talk me into putting rims on my box Chevy, but it's like, nah, I don't want to put 26s on it just yet. I might in the near future, but just not right now. Now, in terms of performance, you really don't get this for racing. You really get this more for, you know, customization. And yeah, funny enough, yes, I did put the General Lee horn in it. Because I did learn that the Ed, Edd n Eddy horn, now this is just from what I've read, the General Lee horn was the horn that they used for the retro van, and I'm referring to Dawn of the Eds episode where they first discovered it. Apparently, it was the General Lee horn, the Dixie horn, played backwards. That's just from what I've read. Do not take that as 100% gospel truth. That's just from what I've read. But, you know, and other than that, in terms of, you know, racing and its handling, like I said, you don't get this for racing. You get this because you want an off-roader. You want a cool, customizable off-roader and a little bit of room in the back to pass the time. To pass the time with Shop. Gonzo, stop! Don't go! Yeah, I can hear Ranger right now like, Gonzo, no, you madman. Don't go Cajun just yet. I can hear Diesel like, bro, that's diabolical. Pass the time. Trust me, some of you that are Cajun get that joke. Somebody thought I was from Texas, which I thought was funny. It's like, well, technically my father's from Texas. So there is that. So then, I'm going to go ahead and swing her back around. And yeah, you get to see all the lights! Don't back it up too hard. I don't want to wreck the retro van. But yeah, you're going to see what I mean by the granny low gear. I will say this. Do watch out because it is a bit top heavy. You know, do watch out. It can be a bit top heavy. That's it. Nice and easy. Nice and easy. Whoo! Hit the brake, hit the brake, hit the brake. Ooh, nice and easy. Yeah, that might be a little bit difficult, but... yeah, it's definitely a bit difficult to get up this part. Yeah, that's why it keeps ramping up. But I can go around, just nice and easy. Ooh, easy, easy, easy. I'm going to ease her down. You're going to see what I mean by the brakes. I'm holding the brakes. I'm holding both the hand brake and the reverse. Now I just got my hand on the brake. Yeah, so we're just going to coast her back down. But yeah, see, it's got a nice rock gear. Yeah, I call it a rock gear. You know, because, hey, it's nice. It's just a nice little thing to have. Yeah, this one might be a little bit difficult. I might flip it. I might not. Easy does it. Please don't flip the retro van. I don't want to Roscoe it. But you see, that's what I mean, too. This thing's got probably some of the best brakes for an off-roader out there. So, yeah. So, my final thoughts on the van. Well, I'll just say this. If you really want it, be my guest, but it is expensive. You know, don't go buying something and then blaming me because you went broke buying this. You made the dumbass decision to buy it. You know, I'm just saying, if you really want it, go for it. If not, oh well. Now, for me, the reason why I got it, because, A, you can make it look like the retro van. That's what I'll say. You can make it look like the retro van close enough from Ed, Ed, and Eddie. But other than that, I'll be seeing y'all around. So then, shoot the like button with a grip skiddly if you enjoyed, and please do comment down below. What off-roaders should Rockstar add into GTA? Let us know down below. Now, other than that, be sure to smash the subscribe button today and click the notification bell icon. And share these videos around because it does help me out greatly. There is a link in the description to other off-road reviews. And as always, y'all have a great day and a ballin' weekend. Remember, don't do anything stupid. And if you see a van, hey, show some oh yeah, by the way, if you want a real cool project car, get a van. Nobody customizes those anymore. We need to bring back the vans. Especially them vans from the 70s, as gaudy as they were. Those were actually still cool. So other than that, y'all take care.